Okay, good afternoon. Obviously game week, so I know there's a ton of juice and excitement surrounding the game or whatnot, but we've been working for a long time in preparation, not only for this game, but for the season, but certainly it starts with University of Florida this coming Saturday, so great practice this morning. Questions, please.
Obviously, not much motivation needed for this matchup, but just how do you make sure your guys go into that game sharp and ready for everything?
Well, it's always a great question, right? Because motivation in football should always take care of itself. And when you play a rivalry game like this, it tends to crank up a couple of levels. But I think it's important to always recognize that games like this and games in general are won throughout the off season. They're won in your Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday practices. You play the game before you play the game, right? And every block, every tackle. Certainly the bodies change, right? And there's always some surprises, but every ounce of focus has to be on the preparation during the game.
All right, other things, how the, without disclosing positions, how many jobs are you still looking at? Are you pretty well set on what's gonna happen as far as first 22, or is there still some questions?
Well, I would say that we certainly know who's gonna be playing for us. There's a couple you let play out throughout the week in terms of who actually gets the first snap or whatnot, but in terms of the roster, the guys that are actually going to be playing, the guys that have legitimate roles defined and those that have some reserve roles, that is for the most part settled.
All right, when you talk about the preparation for this game, part of it obviously is going to be the atmosphere. How do you prepare your team? What do you say to your team? One of the things obviously is that until you get there, it's really hard to present to them. So how do you make sure that they're on the right level to what they're about to see Saturday afternoon?
Sure. Well, the noise level itself, you have to, nowadays you got to simulate that in practice, right? And everything's got to work. This year we had the player-to-coach communication devices. But if you watch games this week and you see a lot of guys squeezing their helmets, trying to get clear communication, because that certainly, it can't be counted on. So what happens next? Everything else has to kick in, your wristbands, your signals, your other methods of communication. So that's been a part of our process, which we've worked really hard to make airtight in every regard. And then you have to simulate the noise itself, where you really, it's a loud place. They do a great job with game day atmosphere. In terms of the opponent itself, it's the most important part. Not only your service teams, but also when you go good on good. It has to continue to be an iron sharpens iron mentality. Your good players have to challenge each other. We got to see speed on speed all week long at the beginning, the middle, and the end of practice. When you put all those things together, we feel it's always been a good recipe for preparation.
What do you know now, maybe now in January, about this one?
About our group? Well, it's we've sandwiched, right, the different classes, because the different class types, right? We have our first signee class, first full cycle class, I should say. They were freshmen last year. A significant amount of them played, almost the most in the country. And now they're sophomores, so they have experience. They might not be veterans, but they have experience. And then you have a good contingent of guys that have been here 3, 4, and 5 years that have really worked hard and seen some ups and downs and have been just itching and grinding to be really good in a win. And then you have some portal classes, particularly this last one, of some really highly talented, high caliber, high care factor guys that can be impactful and that made essentially seamless transitions, as seamless as you can make them, especially as it relates to the timing of their arrival, right? Some guys got here in January, some at the end of the summer, some at the end of the spring. So I think all in all, what I've learned is that, I guess I relearned that it's all about people, right? Hard-working people that are good people that have high care factors. They're going to find a way to make it work. I'm beyond words excited to watch this group play ball.
Mario, thinking back to last year, it seems like one of the hinge points of the season was the end of the game against Georgia Tech. You say you evaluate everything all the time. Is there any changes you made to end of game management or set process?
Well, the first one is follow process. We had a process in place. We just didn't follow it. We've also added a time management coach to always just over harp on the situation. Again, we had it in place. We didn't follow process, which is the most important part. But we certainly cranked up the intensity in the organization behind it.
Who is the time management coach?
You.
Coach, a lot is always kind of said about SEC in the trenches, offensive line, defensive line. You yourself, who part of Alabama for a long time, kind of know that. Just, what are your thoughts on where your guys compare in the trenches to other programs around the country on the offensive side and defensive side?
Well, that's for people to decide at the end of the year. I think preseason awards are, I don't know how much meaning they have, how much value they have. You see a lot of nominations and this person's preseason, this and that, but football is not going to be one on paper. It's going to be one on the field. We've taken a lot of pride in building a group of trench players that are explosive, that are strong, that have good balance and body control, that are tough-minded and hardworking, and that really aren't very concerned about praise. They want to get better. They want to impact the game the best way they can. They know their role. They're really good leaders, and they strive to be the very best in the country. But they certainly don't proclaim it, or they're more about the work and finding a way to get it done.
You've coached in the SEC. Do you feel like SEC body types are a thing, and what type of challenge does that pose?
I think program body types are a thing. Coached in very different conferences, and had an Outland Trophy winner in the Pac-12, had an Outland Trophy winner, and Remington winner in the SEC, and we've had both here at the University of Miami as well. So I think it's more team related than it is conference related. I think it's philosophical as well. What kind of program do you want to have? We've always been about the trenches. We've just added that other component about having some explosive, skilled players around it now. So we're inching closer and closer to the type of roster we want to have.
Mario, that said, one player obviously doesn't make a difference always in the game, but the quarterbacks in this game have experience. They've been around for a while. How much do you think that'll be a factor? The experience for each guy in this matchup, in this particular game?
Well, not enough can be said about their quarterback. I think statistically he leads the country in accuracy when under pressure. Certainly his touchdown to interception ratio lends you to understand how accurate, how decisive, what kind of the caliber of decisions he makes. He's on point. He's a very well coached player. He's a very smart player, but he's also elusive. He's got great feet, great body control. He's got great awareness in the pocket, and he's a winner. And I think now going into his second year in the system, certainly a guy that you have to control throughout the course of the game. Cam Ward has been at different places, and every place he's been, he's just gotten better and better and better. And sometimes he's been playing from ahead and sometimes from behind, but he just plays, and he plays at an extremely high level. And he's done that since the day he got here. There's no limitations as it relates to installing game plan. As it relates to him, sometimes you got to slow it down so that everybody gets it. But I think a quarterback like him, he's so focused and concerned about the team doing well that he's willing to do whatever it takes to make the team do well. So all in all, a winner, an alpha, a leader. So they'll have a massive impact on us.
I want to go back to the new communication rule. Because you're right, every game that you watch Saturday, whether it was a neutral site in Ireland or whatever, the quarterbacks were covering the ear holes like crazy. Is this something coaches wanted? Is it, because it's a new toy, which is nice, everybody likes a new toy, but you gotta figure it out kind of on the fly, and it seems like it could be more harm than help almost.
Well, we're going to find out. We're going to find out in a hurry. But I think a lot of people wanted it, and there was a very strong contingent of those that didn't want it, that really rely heavily on their hand signals and tempo and whatnot. They feel they get slowed down by that process, and they got to get used to that cutoff. And what do you say right before the cutoff that you can't change after the cutoff? Can you get a hold of a guy? And now you got to keep track of green dots. If you have two on the field, it's a penalty. So there's a lot of things that go with this. In conjunction with this, you also have that technology on the sideline, the use of tablets, which had never been used before. So there's a lot, and as long as it's used the right way, efficiently, as long as the information is presented with clarity, it's a bonus. If it's unorganized and jumbled, then you can create your own issues as well.
And the 2-minute timeout, which we can't say 2-minute warning,
Right.
or whatever, to change strategy in any way, or is it just, do you think
It
there
does.
has to be a 4 timeouts?
It does. Well, you do and you don't, because there's a 40-second play clock, and you got to take that into account as you head towards that 2-minute warning. Not to mention the NFL. The clock still winds, after the 2-minute warning, regardless of first down or playing it. So there's certainly a lot of similarities. I think, I know we have, I'm sure everybody has done a lot of studies and meeting and network opportunities with the NFL and some of their 2-minute, time management situations and people and mechanisms and whatnot. And we feel strongly about the things we've worked on, the situational football that we've certainly focused on and emphasized. And we certainly got a lot of work on it during camp and looking forward to, taking advantage of some opportunities to come our way.
Back to the trenches and sandwiching with the portal, the 3 D tackles that you have, Simeon, CJ, Marley, just the value that they can bring with their experience and being able to help you guys on the front.
Absolutely, it's such a hard position to develop, and it's probably one of the biggest areas of need that we had here at Miami for a bit now. And when guys have experience, when they're seasoned, they understand. And they feel those double teams, the bump blocks, the reach blocks, the back blocks, all that stuff. They're able to, read splits and stances and understand backfield sets. They communicate better. They understand the urgency of completing an assignment as it relates to just gap responsibilities and whatnot. So those guys they're hard workers. They're really tough, which we love, and they all have high motors, and they're really competitive. So they've been great mentors for the young guys. You certainly see our young guys improving because of the type of leadership these guys are displaying.
Mario, how do you feel about the team's health coming out of camp, and were there any significant injuries in camp?
I feel good. We all feel good about our health in camp. I don't know if we had a significant injury, we certainly wouldn't share it at this time. And I don't mean any disrespect out of that. But I can honestly say that we feel very good about our health coming out of camp.
You talked about classes kind of sandwiching together, all coming together.
Mhm.
Culture-wise, do you think the program is where it needs to be a successful program around the country?
It's getting there, and it's getting there because I think the caliber of human being, the caliber of competitor, and care factor. A lot of it starts and ends with what you are when you're away from the building, and when you start cranking out successive highest GPAs in team history, and we've always done really well with community service, but to again just knock those numbers out and then just see time invested with the younger players, time invested with each other, just finding ways to improve relationships and connection. The best thing in the world is getting, for football, I believe, is getting a lot of like-minded people together. Because when they're like-minded and they're high achieving, they're strong alpha personality types, they're going to compete. They're going to try to knock each other out in practice, but they're going to want to get better. And we've gotten better in that regard. Are we all the way there? I mean, that's to be determined on the field. Do we feel good about it? Absolutely.
I think coaches get some form of this question before they go over there every year, so I apologize, but you're gonna know more about Fayette, Ball State, and whoever the 4th game is, because you'll have film. How do coaches not go crazy about all the unknowns in week 1? Because
How do they not go crazy? Or to what level of crazy do they actually get to? Probably better, right? If you work hard enough, if you dig deep enough into preparation and you make sure that you are doing that and impacting the people around you as you prepare, and you're airtight in terms of your rules and your processes, that has to be good enough. The rest, right, is game day, making it happen. And the biggest thing is when you get into a game like this, you've done all the work, right? You've had all these practices, you've installed the plays you feel great about and whatnot, but you want to make sure that while all that's being done, that there's trust and confidence in the players and in each other. Eliminate anxiety, right? Anxiety is maybe the biggest performance killer there is out there. And when you prepare the right way, we've had some great speakers, we've had some great alumni stop by, and they talk about it all the time. You got to be able to put your head at night with confidence because you did the work, not because you talked yourself into feeling good because of the work.
Or that said, how much are you a believer in tone setting the first game? Obviously, whether you play a lesser opponent or go on the road to Florida, you want to win that game, but how much do you believe in setting the tone for the season, how important a game like this is?
I think you set the tone week to week. I've always believed that. And I say that because let's put this game aside for 1 second. You go to any year and you go out and you play a great game and you do well, but the next week you don't, well, that first game is quickly forgotten. You're back to square one. So it's square one every single week. the one and all mentality has permeated college football and really all sports, because everyone is really understanding more and more the importance of being where your feet are right now. Don't allow yourself to drift, you know, and just get ahead of yourself, because typically when you do, you're just not seeing all the bumps in the road in front of you. So we stay very grounded in our approach to our opponent.
I wanted to ask you about Ruben. When a kid comes in and has a lot of success quickly, you can go one of two ways. Either he says I'm good and stays there, or he looks in the mirror and says this is where I can get to. How has he gotten better since the end of last season in your eyes?
Well, I think I'd like to answer that question by saying that it relates to our program's progress. The best thing we could do for Ruben Bain is bring guys like Francis Maino and bring in Markel Bell, you know, and Tommy Kinzer, and bring in guys that'll challenge him on a daily basis at the line of scrimmage. You know, getting Akeem Mesdor healthy, bringing Elijah Alston in, right? Tyler Barron in, bringing Armando Blunt in, bringing guys that are gonna just not allow you to get comfortable, you know, because again, that's a great accomplishment, and that was last year. We owe it to Ruben Bain to absolutely push him to the edge, to make sure he maximizes his great potential. And he doesn't shy away from that competition. He's taken a great step forward in terms of leadership, so we expect him to take another step forward as well in his performance.
Mario, you guys face the two other big three programs in the state this year. How much, if you were to win both of those games, does that make an impression on recruiting around Florida, you know, playing those high profile teams in the state and potentially beating both of them, showing that you're in a better spot than them?
All focus on Florida.
What can you say about Coach Napier? You coached with him at Alabama for a few years. Your relationship and just your thoughts on him as a coach.
Yeah, hard worker, really good person. You know, he certainly was a pretty interesting collection of coaches back there. We all took a ton of pride in our work and working for Coach Saban, and had a lot of success together. But certainly, you know, have tremendous amount of respect for him. Great family man as well. So certainly a guy that I have a lot of respect for.